Hello?
Yes, it's me.
Okay, are we part of the... Okay, where's the convo?
I'll send you an invite in a couple seconds. Just let me. I'll drop the call and then I'll send you one real quick.
Through Skype?
Yes, it'll be through Skype.
Okay.
Oh, duh. There you go.
Hey.
Good evening, gentlemen.
It's good to see you
Yes,
guys.
phrasing indeed.
We're live right now. At the time of
What?
We're already live already. I already put everything up. We're already live right now.
I've gathered you all here to reveal the identity of the murderer.
Okay. All right. So I see already.
It was
we have
me,
such a live chat.
Dio. It's me, Austin. It was me all along.
Do we got in the conservatory?
Is that Grant?
Yep, that's me.
All right, boys and girls, are you ready for this?
Okay, Tom.
No, but it's
your
never
levels are
stopped me
coming in
before.
high. Tom, your levels are coming in high. You
Are they? Okay.
volume a little bit, if you can.
How's that?
How am I coming in?
You're coming in.
A little choppy, but good.
At least
Okay, I'm
Is that
gonna have
good
to adjust a bit just because I don't want any noise coming from the recliner, so I'm just gonna move some stuff around.
Yeah, feel free. We're gonna start doing that in a minute. For those who are just tuning in now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so guys, take your time. We should be starting pretty soon, not too long.
Hey, we already got some people in the chat.
Yeah,
Oh.
Matt Wells is
Matt Weiss.
Weiss. Yeah, Matt Weiss is joining us as well too.
Are we gonna be taking questions? I mean,
Yeah, we.
And
can.
wait. Is there like a YouTube thing going on, or?
Yeah, we're already live right now. Yes.
Okay. Okay, well that's good. I didn't say anything embarrassing.
No,
So-
one did. Everyone's good. So.
Oh crap! Not yet, anyway.
Give it time. Give it time.
Hey,
Uh,
Andre.
Hey, what's up?
It's good to have you,
I-
Andre. I'm glad you were able to make it, despite the fact that you live all the way across the world and have a totally different
Early.
time zone than we do. So that's much
Very early morning for him.
Yeah, right now it's 7 a.m. here, so
Oh,
could be
not too
worse.
early. Yeah, that's not too early. That's not too bad. But again, just
Andre's
thanks
having
for
his-
joining us.
coffee and orange juice right with us now.
Right.
Breakfast with film buffet.
And as I'm about
And
to
you're-
pass out because it's like 1 o'clock for me right here. But you know,
Yeah,
Go
it's-
slam some caffeine. You got about a minute. We only got 4 people watching yet, so.
okay, cool. Well, at least we got everything.
We are on the Midnight's Edge,
After
Central
dark.
Time. It is like 11:59, and in like 10
It
seconds
is
or so. it's
time.
gonna be-
Yeah.
All right, guys. So,
Yeah.
you guys all ready to go? I can just switch over to the different. We can just get right into it if you want to.
All right, we can get right into it just around midnight.
Just around midnight, we're about to get into it. Okay, guys. So we're starting now. I saw the movie for my time. It's
Well, should we do an intro, I think, for everybody here? Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Of course, I'll go ahead and do one.
Welcome to the Film Buffet podcast and Midnight's Edge crossover, just like in the comics, just like what we saw tonight, Spider-Man. With us here tonight, we got some wonderful people besides my co-host Rob Gallo and Beyond the Blizz. We also have with us Mr. Grant from Midnight's Edge as well, and the master himself, Andre. How are you guys doing tonight?
Excellent, thank you.
Fantastic.
I think I'm gonna pass out, but I should be okay.
Try and stay with it. I'll let you
I'm
go first.
currently like still buzzed from my sugar high from all the Sour Patch Kids I ate at the theater.
Well, that'll help.
I may have to go and get some coffee later on, but I should be okay. We should be able to make it. Probably at the most, we'll probably see if we can try to get this done within the hour or so. So without further ado, let's get right into it, just so we can try to, get all our thoughts together, as well as what we think about the movie as a whole, and we can get into a little bit of spoilers later on. But
Right.
This crossover beats Sony's knockoff first any day of the week. No shit, it does.
Well,
Sony better be sending Disney some flowers and a fruit basket.
I definitely think so. I think we're all in agreement. So, do we all agree unanimously that we all like this movie? I think we're all in agreement
Yes.
about that, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
I hated it. No, I'm just kidding. I loved it.
Okay.
The only thing I wasn't really fond, the only thing that made me worried about the movie was the marketing. It was just. I'd like to get into that later, but like.
Right. When we get into spoilers, we will for sure.
Yeah, the second
Right.
trailer was pretty. I'm not gonna lie, the second trailer was pretty horrendous for the film, just because, again, I know Andre had touched up on that in the video. The video talking about the science behind trailers, how the basic is. You could tell it was a Sony trailer. They could say, "Oh, let's outline the entire movie for you," and there's
So,
Right.
so
And
what?
I think if you look back at it, technically, Amazing Spider-Man 2 was worse about
it was.
giving everything away, because
Yeah.
it basically teased the night Gwen Stacy died aspect of the entire plot, which is basically the most important thing that happens in that collection of scenes.
Right.
That is kind of sort of a movie.
And we could touch on that more when we get into spoilers, of course, because then we can actually talk about what we're talking. We can actually get into actual details. But I guess first up front, what was everybody's expectations going in? Did the movie live up to your expectations? Since he's tired, I guess we'll start with Beyond.
That's great, Tom. Thank you very much. Yes. Okay. So I will say this. I really enjoyed this film quite a bit. I would say it's actually the best Spider-Man film, probably only second to Spider-Man 2, the original Sam Raimi Spider-Man 2. But on some days, especially after I see it, because I want to see this movie multiple times, it may be my favorite. I mean, the movie had all the jokes. Spider-Man's in high school. It's very genuine. It's vibrant. Just there's so many Easter eggs, and the jokes land that they feel organic, and sometimes they feel meta, but it somehow works, and everything comes together. And the villain was fantastic. I mean, who would have thought that it would take a Sony and Marvel deal to actually make a decent villain, excluding Loki, in the Marvel universe? Let's be fair about this.
We got two really good villains this year.
Right. Yeah. Because pretty much every other villain in the Marvel universe is horrible. Besides maybe a few here or there, but most of them are throwaway, and you forget about them after you see them, months later after the fact. But the Vulture really is going to stay with me, especially because I love the fact that Spider-Man's villains are always so close and interconnected within Spider-Man's story and his either him or his family and whatever. I like how they show that. That's we'll get into that in the spoilers later on, but he is he's very, very much close to Peter in a certain way that even I was surprised in the theater when there was a little twist in the movie, but I won't get into that now. But I just, overall, I really enjoyed this film a lot. I thought it was really well made. Again, it felt very true to the character, and I do feel like this is the definitive Spider-Man we've had ever. I really think so. Better than Sam Raimi's, better than Tobey Maguire, and of course better than Andrew Garfield by a milestone. So yeah, those are pretty much my thoughts on the movie as a general overview of it. I can lead it over to, I don't know who wants to go second. I guess maybe Rob or Grant or Andre.
Let's go. What did you think? What were your expectations going in, Andre?
Well, I was thinking, well, this is Marvel's first Spider-Man, so it can't be that bad. I don't know how hyped I was. I only started getting hyped till the last few days before the movie, actually, because I was that burned on Spider-Man by the Amazing Spider-Man series and all the mess that went down into that. But in the last few days, my anticipation level started going up, despite the whole high school angle. Because as I said in my review, I've never been a fan of teenage high school Peter Parker. That's just a personal preference, because that's not the Spider-Man I was introduced to. But it worked pretty well. And I really enjoyed the movie, especially as it started to get going Like, it was like, yeah, okay, cool, for like the first half of it, and then it really kicked into high gear, and then I really got into it. So it's one of those rare movies where there was a shift in the middle, but I liked it more afterwards. So yeah, I really enjoyed it, and it is my favorite Spider-Man movie. As I said, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2 is probably the better film, but this is the best Spider-Man adaptation. This is my go-to Spider-Man movie.
Rob?
Yeah, I found it thoroughly enjoyable. There was one element which I'll get into, which I didn't buy, and but other than that, I mean, this movie actually leaps right in to Spider-Man as a character, and which kind of threw me for a second because I had to remind myself, oh wait, yeah, we're not doing an origin story this time. We're not, but that's a good thing. I mean, we all know who Spider-Man is. We all know who Peter Parker is. We can just go right in and start swinging. I mean,
it was so refreshing to see that. I'm sorry to interrupt. Like I said, it was just.
Oh
so
no, that's
refreshing.
perfectly fine. Yeah.
Finally, because again, I will say this: I really did not like the Amazing Spider-Man 1, the first one. I thought it was very boring, generic, retreaded, very poorly made, pretty much a remake of the Sam Raimi one. And on top of that, what I really didn't like was the fact that they kept retreading the origin story in such a cliched and generic way. And also on top of that, the fact that Sony was saying, this is going to be the untold story of Peter Parker and his backstory with his family. And then it just turns out that, oh no, we're just going to redo the Sam Raimi movie and maybe have little things, swapped out here or there, but it's basically the same thing. Instead of you getting Mary Jane.
Did you ever wonder what happened to Peter's parents?
No, I haven't. No, I have not wondered what happened.
The origin of his parents, the secret backstory, the interconnected with Oscorp. Like, again, it's pretty much
that awkward deleted scene. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty much like Sony was like, we need to get butts in seats. Let's be safe. Let's trick them into just thinking they're going to get something completely different, but really they're just going to get a recycled Sam Raimi movie.
Yeah.
It already came out in 2002. 10 years before.
Just have to add something really quickly there. Something I forgot to mention during our previous roundtable discussion about The Amazing Spider-Man 2. The authorities really need to shut down Oscorp because it's the world's sole producer of super villains. Like, that's all they do. That's all the stuff coming out of Oscorp is super villains, one way or the other. Someone needs to shut that place down, and the world of The Amazing Spider-Man would be identical to our world. Void of superheroes. Sorry.
Yeah,
void of the one superhero that came out of it, and void of a shitload of supervillains.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Like, it was kind of weird. I know some people say they liked it, that they liked the fact that, Oscorp is the cornerstone of all your villains, but it just kind of gets very repetitive. Because
I liked it to some extent that Oscorp was the source of some of the villains, but like I wouldn't have liked it if it was like every single villain fell into a vat of electric eels.
Every single one.
Right, Andre's right. That was their whole plan. Yeah.
I think that's what was good about this movie is that Oscorp is not Oscorp exists, but I mean that's not the source of where Spider-Man's problems are coming from right now.
I was gonna say I don't remember it either coming up, or unless I missed an Easter egg somewhere.
I think there's a billboard or something.
I don't think there's an explicit mention of Oscorp. I think there might be a reference to the Daily Bugle somewhere, or at least there was one in a deleted scene that was in the marketing. Because I know there's something that was from the Japanese area of the marketing campaign that they had like a pictures of the Daily Bugle. Like this was like the false report though that stated that what's the chick from The Nice Guys, the girl from The Nice Guys was playing Gwen Stacy. Even though she's Betty Brant, Angourie Rice, that's her name.
Yeah.
So did it live up to your expectations, Grant? How did you feel about the film?
Oh yeah, totally. Like, I mean, I was mostly just like, I mean, I kind of had like a kind of sense of worry about this movie just because of the marketing campaign and that sort of thing. Like I mean, it was more like I really was worried about the marketing because it wasn't like selling me the way that some of the other movies were selling me. Like I'll say for, like, I mean, I wasn't really sold on Guardians 2's marketing either, but I thought it was better about handling the way that it was sort of selling the story. And for Ragnarok, I was like, wow, that's like the best superhero trailer to come out of the year so far, you know? Which I think was, like, incredible considering that Thor's kind of an character to me, but I still like what they do with that sort of thing. So anyway,
yeah, I think this is going to be the biggest for sure.
Marketing was the kind of albatross of this thing. Sony had one job, and they made a decent first trailer. I'll give them that, and a decent third trailer. But the second trailer basically saved a bunch of people a trip to the movie theater, and I don't like it when they do that. I don't think anyone likes it when they do that, just based on reactions to other comic book movies, like The Amazing Spider-Man 2, for instance, doing that. With my bitching about the marketing aside, and the horrendous poster that was like a Photoshop orgy.
Yeah, that was pretty horrendous.
I swear this movie's had more posters than any other movie in history.
Yeah, quite a few. It had quite a few. It did, yeah.
What was the thought process behind that poster? Let's just throw every single character we can think of into one frame.
They leave out the actual Shocker, though. That's the thing. So it's like, or most of the other supporting cast. So yeah.
In their defense,
minor spoilers there, but yeah.
In their defense, though, if you look back at the history of Marvel posters, and then I mean Marvel Cinematic Universe posters, for the most part, they too are poorly photoshopped garbage.
The
movies are great.
Ant-Man one comes to mind.
Yeah, for example. So, for instance,
but
in this
I will
way,
say at least as far as visual structure, Ant-Man's made sense, whereas this particular poster that they had was just kind of like this really weird mishmash of Spider-Man's going into the fire, and then there's Tony Stark in the background, and then there's Iron Man in the foreground, and suddenly Washington D.C. over the New York skyline. Like
it was just like the Iron Man posters, or like the Prime Iron Man posters, which are all a bunch of shit. All the more obscure ones to have the good poster. It was the same thing here. So thankfully, there were good posters too. But man, there was some shit in there.
All the Marvel posters double as DVD box covers. I think that's kind of the idea.
Right. I was just having a conversation. I think it was with you, Rob, wasn't it? Where I said that I was not a big fan of hardly any of the Marvel posters thus far. That's one department they just haven't really seemed to nail down yet.
I say just go old school. Just make them comic book covers.
Right. Get Alex Ross. Get these other guys in here to do them. What the heck?
I really like that one. I really like this teaser poster that was like Spider-Man just like hanging upside down and then saluting the audience, like the
original first picture I think they released. Yeah,
like I like that, and I also like the stuff that they have him, like he's sitting in his decathlon outfit. So like I thought that was kind of clever. I was just a little worried about the marketing, and to actually get into my impressions of the film, I thought it was probably one of Marvel's freshest. Like it felt like a breath of fresh air from Marvel. Like I felt like the same way that I did when I watched Ant-Man. Although I will say this movie is like a dozen times better than Ant-Man. So like I liked Ant-Man. So I am very glad that they managed to pull off the right tone. Pretty much every single joke that they had landed, and the action is probably some of the best. I think this might be my favorite closing action sequence for a Spider-Man movie. Like, not exaggerating.
It was really tight, yeah.
You're talking about the him
right? Like, I think the first one is the only close competition, I would say, as far as like the final battle sequence goes. Because then, because two's train sequence is probably the best action sequence overall, but I do think that Homecoming had ended on a pretty strong note, and I really thought the kids were all right. The adults were great too, and
kids are all right.
Yeah, that's the song kind of thing.
I don't mind other guys dancing with my girl.
Okay. No more, because I won't have to pay for it.
We don't want.
Thanks, YouTube.
But okay, I guess then, I mean, obviously we all love the movie and we said it up
Yes.
front, and I did too. I have to say it really did live up to my expectations. To expand on what Grant said about the action, I actually loved the action in this movie. The action in this movie was so well done. It was tight. I didn't feel like I was constantly trying to figure out what I'm supposed to be looking at. It wasn't all over the place. The shots were steady. You know what I mean?
There was no shaky cam. That's one thing I can't.
Exactly. It was like
shaky cam. That, especially, I'll give you an example of the Chris Nolan, the original Batman Begins.
Right,
Had
that's
horrendous action.
there was hardly any handheld in this entire movie,
Right.
and that's not necessarily a bad thing. It looked smooth. Even the night scenes, you could see what was going on, which is generally a big issue in 3D. Which I saw it in 3D, and I thought it looked marvelous, even in a standard Real D presentation.
Marvelous.
It looked marvelous. I can't wait to see it in IMAX. As far as the movie itself, this ain't my favorite Marvel movie, but it's close. It is very close, and I have to see it again because it's like Guardians 2 and this are neck and neck right now. And just to expand on, I think it was Rob said it earlier about how that was just so fresh. And every Marvel movie, or was it Grant that just said that? Anyway,
Grant
I
said
said
it,
it was.
Yeah,
I
okay.
said
I'll
that-
take credit for it though.
okay. Either way,
No, go ahead. Take credit for it.
every single Marvel movie
You're
has
probably
been
thinking it's all right.
different than the last, and that's what I love about them so far is they've been able to take every single movie, even ones that are sequels to the last, and make it a whole new genre outside of maybe like Iron Man and Iron Man 2, which are pretty similar. They're like kind of close.
Right. I'd say
But-
Iron Man 2 is relatively lighter than the first one because
Right.
the first one the first one has a pretty intense like first act.
But it didn't feel like a completely different movie like Iron Man
Right.
single Marvel sense. So, I mean, I guess just my overall impression and my final thought on that is that it was just you're not going to have a better time at the theater this summer. This is what summer movies are supposed to be. This reminded me of an 80s hit. It's got all the right beats, just like an 80s movie. And I know some people said that it had like, a lot of John Hughes influence, which you can tell for sure. I even
And
felt
it had a sequence lifted from Ferris Bueller while lifting footage from Ferris Bueller.
That was awesome.
Literally,
Yeah.
like, both literally and
Did
figuratively.
anybody else get like obviously I got where Tom Holland said he got a lot of his inspiration from Michael J. Fox, and I even got a lot of the Karate Kid in the tone. I don't know if you guys did or not either, but
Yeah, I was kind of thinking that. Like I was thinking a little more like I guess Rocky would be how I'd kind of think of it.
kind of, yeah. But just that kind of a I got that kind of it took me back to that kind of filmmaking. It felt like this is the Spider-Man movie minus all the special effects probably we would have gotten in the 1980s. It feels like.
The one thing I noticed actually, talking about it feels like a 1980s movie, like a John Hughes movie. A lot of 80s music in the soundtrack. I mean, you had the English Beat, you had Flock of Seagulls,
Rolling
you had
Stones. I mean,
Rolling
not,
Stones.
yeah, there was Rolling Stones, and then, but I was thinking of the Ramones. But
The Ramones,
the Rolling
yeah,
Stones were
Ramones.
there too.
So I guess
well,
I mean,
that's more 70s, but the Ramones are from Queens, so that's kind of their nod to them.
Brooklyn.
It's pretty meta if you think about it. That's actually a good thing you pointed out there, Rob. I really like that.
So
I
instead of
exactly
asking,
about that.
so instead of asking.
There's actually a street in down Queens, Joey Ramone Avenue in Forest Hills. So
Okay, but you were going to say something, Tom.
I was going to say, instead of starting out with what you guys thought worked in the movie, I'm going to start out with what you guys didn't think worked because that'll probably be the shorter list. So, whoever wants to go first.
Okay, can I get to the spoiler?
The
The spoiler that's not really a spoiler because it was out there for like a year.
I don't think anybody.
everyone kind of knew already. It's kind of this thing.
Yeah.
We all.
Okay,
kinda knew.
quick shout out to my boss at Heroic Hollywood, Umberto Gonzalez. He wrote one of the first articles about this. That actually started
Umberto
pointing people in this
Gonzalez.
direction. What?
No, I was just saying Umberto Gonzalez. Keep going.
Okay.
adding dramatic flair to his name.
Exactly.
Yes, it is a very cool name. So yeah, he was definitely
Sounds
right
like a
about this.
drug
Some
kingpin.
people give him whatever, but like I'm just saying, like he has a track record of knowing what he's talking about when it comes to like these sorts of things. So don't dismiss the scoop. Anyway, yeah. Okay, so what we're talking about here is the whole Mary Jane MJ as John Harrison or what was the name of the guy who played Blofeld in Spectre? What was his face name? Franz Overhauser or something?
Yeah, Overhauser, yeah.
Or
yeah.
Whatever Talia al Ghul in The Dark Knight Rises, what her fake name was? Miranda Tate, I think.
I think that was it's some Tate.
Yeah, it felt like one of those.
herring.
Like it felt like when they actually did the reveal, like it was like kind of like okay.
It was so
Like,
casual.
it was just kind of like, to me, it didn't make a whole lot of sense to do it the way that they did it. It was just because, and I mean, in part, like I liked I thought Zendaya was funny. I thought she brought something to the table, like even though she didn't really contribute a whole lot to the story. I thought she had an interesting performance, and I think I gave her. I was worried about her because she's a Disney Channel actress, and I was worried that she'd be like overacting throughout the entire movie. And as it turned out, no, that was the exact opposite of what happened. I felt, so yeah, I was just thinking, like, if they were going to do an MJ reveal, I think it would have been better if they had made it more of a big deal than they actually did, as opposed to, oh, by the way, call me MJ. Like, it just seemed kind of like, huh?
Yeah, I agree with that. That was pretty lackluster. That was something of an anticlimax.
It was a little anticlimactic, Andre. I agree completely. It was just kind of like, oh, my name's MJ. Hi. It's kind of like, okay.
So is there anything else that you didn't think worked, Grant?
No, part of me has to wonder if maybe the reason they did that has to do with, like, the shitstorm that Michael B. Jordan went through, and evidently based on what I don't remember the guy the name of the guy who played Flash in this, but he got death threats or something, and he had a very professional response to how he handled that criticism. Like, I think he handled it a lot better than Michael B. Jordan did, because Michael B. Jordan kind of made a big deal out of it, and it kind of looked awkward after the movie turned out.
Well,
and
I think the thing about it is that I think people, and I just want to say this, I think people were just really using that as fuel against the film, because even regardless if Michael B. Jordan was cast, the movie still had an uphill battle of not being able to win over any new fans or old fans alike that already had animosity because the previous two horrendous films from, I forgot the director that did it, some Tim Story.
Tim Story.
Yeah.
Tim Story. But so they already had the uphill battle there, so I feel like they used that as fuel to say, okay, hey, look, they're departing away from the character. It must suck. And of course it did suck, but it wasn't because of Michael B. Jordan. It was because the movie itself was a ghastly disaster.
So what didn't you think
I will
worked?
say, of that movie's performance, I would say that both him and the dude from Freddy from House of Cards, like they were basically like, they gave that their all considering what they were given. I don't know. But yeah, back to Spider-Man, I'll just say, yeah, I'm as far as anything else, I was kind of worried that they accidentally just killed off Scorpion without saying anything, except in the post-credit scene show them that he'll be back or something.
Right.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's a Scorpion, and I saw the way he looked. I'm like, he's a Scorpion.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, he'll be an awesome Scorpion.
I think he would.
So Andre, what did you think didn't exactly work with the movie? I think you had a few more nitpicks than a couple of us did.
Yeah, well, I don't. Grant has covered most of my nitpicks. Like MJ, that was a big one, and then there was the whole thing about the suit, because I thought that, well, that's a pretty cool suit, but this is Spider-Man with the AI and everything to help him out.
It's his new spider sense, yeah.
Exactly, but still, that doesn't sit entirely right with me, because he gets a lot of help, and that's part of the appeal of Peter Parker, is that he's out there without really knowing what he's doing. It's just like going around looking for trouble, and trouble always finds him, and then he has to sort it out on his own. He has no one to help him. He has his back against the wall all the time. But here, he suddenly has shitloads of help. Of course, that help doesn't really work out because it's too advanced for him. But still, that's like one thing that was a pet peeve.
I felt like the fact that, like, he was having trouble with all the AI stuff actually made for some of the more interesting little action bits. Like I personally agree that I feel like it shouldn't necessarily. Like, I mean, Peter Parker with an AI suit seems more like the kind of thing you would have, like, say, when he's an adult and when he's designing his own gear. Although I think the producers or the director have suggested that over time, like, Peter's going to tweak this suit, or the Iron Spider-looking one that he got at the end of this that he didn't put on just yet.
Well, thank God for that, because that would have been horrible.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I was looking at the suit and I'm like, this is overkill. Like, it felt like the Spider-Man suit was already like basically an Iron Man type suit, and then they want to, on top of that, add more. And it just felt like I can see memes now of just like a Mark 50 of a Spider-Man suit. It just has all these gizmos and gadgets and everything flying out of it just because it's all overkill. And
Well, I like how they made the suit. I guess we're at spoilers up now, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I thought so. I like how this is it the Ultimate Spider-Man suit that looks like. Yeah. I kind of like that. It's kind of cool. But okay. So what did you not think worked then, Rob?
I didn't. First of all, the whole thing with Zendaya Coleman. Actually, someone in the chat said, "What about that?" I said I addressed that. To me, it's their way of having their cake and eating it too. You know, oh well, she's Michelle, but she's MJ.
Right.
She's without being Mary Jane Watson. She's still MJ, but she's not really Mary Jane. You know, that's kind of like that's kind of a cop out.
Did you guys notice? Oh, sorry, Beyond.
But
no, I was just gonna say real quick. It's kind of like the other character, Ned Leeds.
Yeah.
Who's really Wong? He's Wong. They just won't say it, but he's Wong.
Yeah.
Don't you mean Gaka Lee or
Gaki Lee? That's it, Gaki Lee. I'm sorry. Yeah, Gaki Lee.
Wong is Doctor Strange.
Yeah,
Did anybody else notice though that they basically took MJ and turned her into Peter Parker, obsessed with Mary Jane? They just flipped.
They did, because there's a little Easter egg of her saying she knows every class that he takes and everything about him. She's
obsessed with him.
And here's the thing: there is a deleted scene. There was a leaked picture that they had of her at the dance, because he's at the dance for a little bit longer than he actually was in the movie, where you see her start to look at Peter and get a little bit jealous of seeing him with Liz Allen. And of course, the character that he wants to go out, that he's going after, that he took to the dance. So I think they took it out because they didn't want to make it too obvious that I think obviously Mary Jane. We can say now it's Mary Jane.
They'll have
that sequel. I would like to have seen that scene though. That would have been. I would like to have seen that scene. It would have been.
And I guarantee
she has a crush on him hard, like pretty hard.
Oh.
And I guarantee.
And I thought the idea.
I want to see this.
I like the idea of her having a crush on him and like not really saying anything. Like I just thought that was kind of like a neat aspect as like sort of it was kind of like having a romantic triangle without having a romantic triangle plot.
But the other thing too is oh, please don't tell me I lost my train of thought.
Liz.
Oh my god. Yeah. Oh, it's so late for me, guys. I'm sorry. It's like
I guarantee though, in the next movie, you're gonna get a scene where MJ tells Peter that she's known all along he's Spider-Man.
That's what I was going to say. That's exactly what I was going to say, that she knows that he's Spider-Man and that she just won't say it because she's protecting him pretty much.
Okay.
That's what I want to say. Thanks, Tom.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, but here's another thing. But before
problem.
we hit it off, here's another thing that didn't work. And it's the one thing that I kind of knew wasn't going to work all along. Flash Thompson. I said to myself when they announced this kid was going to be Flash Thompson, and it has nothing to do with him being Guatemalan or whatever it is, and they were, oh well, he's not going to be the traditional jock bully. He's going to be a verbal bully. I'm like, he's not even really a bully. He's just an asshole.
Right, I agree that. I don't like what they did to Flash either. Like you said, it has nothing to do with the acting.
Guys, I have a really big, like super hardcore theory about Flash Thompson's character. It's kind of out there, but I guess have this thing because I can totally see them doing this. Do you want to hear it?
Well,
Go for it.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
I have a feeling. I don't know, for whatever reason, I just got these vibes. I would not be surprised if Flash Thompson, and follow me on this one, if Flash Thompson was a homosexual.
Closeted, latent homosexual.
I get what he's saying. Like, yeah, and he likes Peter.
I can get that. Yeah.
And in more ways than one, but yeah.
Here's why. The leaked script that Rob narrated, that I edited, of course, that you guys can see that video on Midnight's Edge, the one about how there was that one scene that was in the leaked script, the so-called leaked script, that when Spider-Man
Right.
saved
I'm still
him.
trying to figure out if that's someone who's really had a lucky guess. But the thing is, they did do a different first draft that they revised to fit a certain structure. So like, I have to wonder if that was on the money or if
Where he's got like a creepy man crush on Spider-Man.
Right.
Yeah.
Even if it's not true or not, it's just the fact that it seems like he's like obsessed with Peter in a sense, and it always seems like he's like, there was this one scene towards the end where he's in the car, with one blonde chick, and he's just kind of like, oh, I got this and that going on, like he's like overcompensating. I don't know. It's just, I wouldn't be surprised if they went there, and that would actually be pretty hilarious if they did, because it would be this weird twist that would make sense, and then something that I haven't really seen happen before in any comic book movie ever. It would be really, really like so different.
Right. Okay. So I
Spider-Man.
guess.
Hold on. Well, let me just
Well,
finish.
then, if that's
No,
the
go
case,
ahead.
then Andrew Garfield will probably get his wish of
Being gay, yeah.
something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
But like I said, the other thing about
By
Flash.
Curious Peter.
Yeah, he swings down to Christopher Street and he said, "Flash, what are you doing here?" Yeah. So.
Well, like I said,
But it was-
you'll like Peter in more ways than one, more than one Peter anyway. But anyway, so no.
But the other thing that didn't work about Flash is he's a DJ. I'm like, really? This is just like trying too hard. Every time the character appeared on the screen, it was just like trying too hard, trying way too hard, trying
Right.
way too fucking hard to be this like millennial kind of thing, And I'm like, can you just find a big guy, like a 6 foot tall guy, to shove Peter into a locker a couple times?
I think they could. If they got Kong, if they get a character to play Kong or something, I think that would work in place of Flash. If you had like Kong be the physical, whatever.
Yeah. Like I said, because he wasn't even he wasn't even a bully. He was just an asshole. And a kid like Flash Thompson, he would be getting bullied. He would be getting his ass kicked. I don't know. Okay, for the people who are listening, Queens is a very kind of at least it was at one time a very working class area. A lot of very salt of the earth kind of people there. Someone like Flash Thompson wouldn't be living in Queens, or at least he, the way the neighborhood was before gentrification starts to set in, he'd be living on the Upper West Side, and so he would be the one getting bullied. Where you going, rich boy? Hey, I'm talking to you, Richie Rich. Get your ass over here. That kind of thing. So
Well, maybe the
like,
money, maybe the aspect of him having a lot of money protects him, because his father is probably very wealthy, so it would perhaps maybe
probably feels, but like I said, there are a lot of people there. It's a very kind of New York thing that you just don't give a shit, and you'll just kick somebody's ass.
That's true. I'm from New York, so I kind of know. That's true.
for having
Confirm that.
Yeah.
Okay, so then I guess just to
It's on
kind
the
of
ground. Hey, not talking shit now, are you?
round this part out. I mean,
Yeah,
I had
Flash
probably
Thompson didn't work, so that's all.
no. Go ahead. I was just,
Flash Thompson didn't work. Tried too hard, didn't work.
and I'll
I
expand
just have
on
to
that.
add in one thing
No, go
to
ahead,
Flash
Andre.
Thompson there, because I thought that he was pretty all right, but hey, that's me not being from New York or even America, so what do I know? But anyway, I was just thinking, how was it that he taunted Peter Parker in the DJing? What was it that he said?
Penis Parker.
Penis Parker.
That's what I thought. I seem
It's
to
what he
recall
says when
that.
he first drives by him at the school.
I'm gonna have to go with Beyond the Bleach on this one. That this Flash Thompson, not Gordon, as I said in a mistake, in the, the
I was
review.
gonna poke
I was
something
kind
like
of
that, but
expecting him to be
That was
like a closet nerd, and that like Flash was his nickname because he was a fan of Flash Gordon or something. Like I was kind of hoping for that, but it didn't.
did you
happen.
catch the Too Fast Flash line too? Even though, that was kind of stupid, but anyway, no, I guess just to kind of finish this part out, I really had the least amount of complaints throughout the movie. I didn't think Flash worked that well. I liked him better than what Rob did, though. I do totally see him going gay for Peter later on in more ways than one. Like I said,
Yeah, because that's like a huge
ground.
Freudian thing, calling him Penis Parker. That's like
Exactly.
his secret wish.
It's like valid thing, if that makes sense. I mean, of course, lots of like people that are that age, penis, making silly teen jokes, but there's still that chance there.
The only other issue I had was I had a little bit of issue kind of relating to the high school stuff now, considering, but I mean, I'm that far removed from it. I guess I'd have to ask somebody who isn't as far removed or is still in high school how they related to it. Because I mean, that's where Rob was saying, about all the millennialized stuff. Well, this is obviously probably how kids act nowadays. And I mean, there was some stuff that I still was able to relate to from my childhood here. And I think that's where the director came in, and he really made sure that it had that universal John Hughes vibe to where those movies are evergreen and keep going because of the fact that they can speak to multiple generations. And I think looking back on the Marvel movies, even though this movie has a lot of kids and stuff in it, it will probably age the best of a lot of the other ones just because it has a lot more of those touchstones that don't seem, I mean, there are some millennial moments, don't get me wrong, but it seems like there's more of those moments that are just touchstones in any American teenager's life. I didn't really have any other complaints other than that. There was just some moments where the high school scenes kind of seemed a little tedious to me, but they kind of found ways to really kind of beef that up and make it good. So I guess I'll start real quick with some of the things I did like, because I'm sure you guys will just expand on it more as we go on.
But before
go ahead, Ron.
Into that, can we continue with the high school thing? Because I was very interested in what you said about.
I was gonna say, I think of the three separate Spider-Man film continuities, I would say this probably handled the actual high school aspect of the story the best. Because in the first one, it was just sort of a footnote toward the beginning of the movie. And then in the second one, it was basically like High School Musical shit going on. Whereas with this, is felt to me like a general sort of... Like, this felt like close to the Ultimate Comics, I would say. Like, just with less melodrama. Which I think makes sense because this is just generally a lighter film in this long-running series, Like, this is kind of like a breather to like the stuff that's gonna hit next.
The stakes
year.
Aren't so high, yeah.
Right, and that's what I think. That's something I think was also great, is that it's not this big world-ending thing where you have to fight this giant explodey tower of doom.
You mean
at the end
basically
of
every
thing.
single Michael Bay Transformers movie? That's what you're saying, right, Grant?
Right.
So Andre was going to say something. What were you going to say, Andre?
Yeah, like what I was wondering. I was like what you said about you being so far removed from high school that you maybe don't relate anymore. And for myself, not only am I far removed from the Norwegian equivalent of high school, but here's what I'm like thinking. I wonder how well that part is going to play off internationally, because school systems vary from country to country. And like, for instance, homecoming and this decathlon or whatever, I can deduce what. Yeah, exactly, that's the one. I have to deduce what those things are based on this movie and other movies, like John Hughes movies. That's how I've learned what homecoming is. That it's some kind of like finishing ball or something. But honestly, I have no idea. And homecoming is not going to mean anything to anyone outside of the U.S.
Well, homecoming usually it's a big thing around November or so.
It's like around late September, November. It's
the whole thing is
really it's in December. Oh, okay.
I was gonna say the high schools have their football games, and then they go away for a few weeks, and then when they come back, all of them have whatever their first game home back in October is. That's considered their homecoming dance. Then they'll have the homecoming.
Really? So it has something to do with the sports? I have no idea.
It does. I consider it sort of like sports prom. That's what I call it, because it's a dance, and it feels like prom. It's not like full-on prom. But
I was going to say it's generally for the underclassmen and not for the seniors. Yeah. Then the prom is for the seniors.
It was a bigger thing back like in the 50s and 60s. Up through the 70s. I don't think it's so much anymore, really.
Not really, no. Prom is still a big thing, though, of course.
We do homecoming here, but it's very middle America in a way. I mean, which is kind of odd considering the movie takes place in New York, and you guys. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Do they really do that still out there then, or is it just kind of?
I would say they do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so anyway, then I guess to move on, then what we thought did work about the movie, and I'll take the lead on this one because I thought just about everything worked about the movie. And I'm not just saying this because, I went into it with knowing that that Marvel was going to do good for Sony, and like I said, Sony should be really kissing Disney's ass and Marvel's ass right now. Another thing I'm going to say to all those people out there who were so worried that Disney was going to come in and Disney-fy Spider-Man and kid him up, this has got to be the most racy as far as innuendos, swearing, and just flat, like, I mean, come on, we already pointed out that he gets called Penis Parker. Where else are you going to hear that in any of the other kind of movies? I swear there's definitely more swear words in this movie, and like I said, innuendos and all that kind of stuff, and adult content.
On an interrupted, the interrupted mother of all naughty words, too.
I love that. That was like, oh god,
okay,
I laughed so
I
hard.
love that. Though I will have a minor thing to gripe about it, just because this is the internet and that's what we do. But I thought that was great too. But anyway, back to you.
No, I was just to say, because I mean, I think they almost did it on purpose, just because of almost in, not reactionary, but just to kind of say, hey guys, this is not going to be Disney Spider-Man. Don't worry. This is definitely the hardest PG-13 of all the Marvel movies so far.
I wouldn't say it's too hard.
Other than maybe Guardians of the Galaxy.
Like I'm sorry to interrupt you, Tom, but I don't think it's too hard. It's kind of like this. It's edgy for like someone who's like a 13-year-old, but for an adult, to me, pretty much.
When it comes to the language and stuff, yes. Violence, no.
Even the language still pretty. Or I'll say this: it felt the most realistic you will get in a high school setting. I will say that. I
honestly, I'm trying to think back on all the other Marvel movies, and I don't remember as much racy dialogue in any of them. Really,
well,
is this other Guardians of the
Probably the
Galaxy
stuff with Tony Stark. I'll probably say hide the zucchini.
here and there? Yeah.
Well, it's racy, but it's still, you don't have to cover your kid's ears when you say it.
Right.
Exactly.
But I'm just saying it's kind of a big. Oh, go ahead, Grant.
They go with a lot of language that is like not typically associated with what would be considered a typical family film. But what's interesting to me is that the humor itself is presented mostly cleanly.
Well, it even took me back to hear Spider-Man swear a couple times right at first, and then once he starts, he does it through the whole movie because he's from Queens. It's just obviously, part of his, je ne sais quoi, or for lack of a better term. But yeah.
Yeah. No, go ahead, Grant. Sorry.
Okay, so I'll say I really liked the jokes. To me, the humor was just right. There was nothing that felt over the top. Say they were trying too hard. A lot of the one-liners from Avengers: Age of Ultron were kind of like that. It almost felt like
it felt like the movie.
It almost felt like a better version of Batman and Robin with the hockey team from hell. Or whatever.
I guess I don't know. I guess I didn't get that necessarily, but I mean, it was brighter than most of the Marvel movies. Don't get me wrong on that part. So I mean, I'm not saying it was dark in any way, shape, or form. I mean, but at the same time, I don't think it was that bubblegum either. I would say, I was just saying, as far as
I gotta say, I felt like the films actually has some of the more intense Spider-Man scenes, like the car ride, which I think is my favorite scene in the movie that doesn't have any action in it. Just the general...
Yeah.
Everything about the way that Michael Keaton puts... Adrian Toomes puts everything together just from one conversation. It's just very good storytelling, and it's very interesting.
Right. And that's what I was saying before. It's a very tight story.
Yeah. That scene was very well written, and it's very well acted too. Yes, definitely.
And I think my favorite part was actually him just casually giving him a dad talk immediately after, while also issuing a death threat. I just thought wow, this character is ruthless, but he's also I also got the intention that he really is concerned for looking out for the people who work for him and everything,
Well, did you guys also notice how I love how they explained away him having a villain monologue there? I loved that part.
Again, there were certain parts of the movie where they were very meta, where the part where, I think it was the beginning when they were practicing for the tournament or forever, the academic tournament, and the guy kept
the decathlon,
and the teacher called him out on it and say, "Oh, stop doing that for comedic effect." It's very meta.
that was good.
I really love that aspect of the film a lot.
Okay, so moving on from what I enjoyed in the film, then what did you enjoy, Andre?
Well, as you said, I really enjoyed the Vulture and especially that car sequence. And not just the car sequence, but everything leading up to it. From like the moment he opens the door, and it's the dad of Peter's
Liz.
date.
Right, they
Yeah,
don't give that
Liz.
the least bit of a lead up at all. You don't even get.
That was,
I mean,
Like the most
an
that the
inkling.
trailers hinted at was the whole thing of I do anything for my family, just which
And the
is more of
drawing,
a
yeah.
throwaway
Yeah.
sympathy for the bad guy line, as opposed to, by the way, this character is my daughter. Which
I didn't
Right.
see it really
so
worked
many
because
times.
that's one thing that I noticed when she had the party at her house. I was like thinking, well, that's a really nice house, so her parents must be doing really well. And it turned out, yeah, the dad is doing
Especially
really well.
in New York,
Really?
yeah.
Yeah, the illegal weapons trade is a huge business. Yeah.
Yeah. So I really enjoyed his motivation, how he was really just an ordinary salvage guy who got screwed over by the big guys and the big
By
guns.
Stark, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And he decided that, well, fuck this shit. And basically went into business, doing the same thing as Stark did. That was something really clever.
That was ironic.
Because Stark
He became
started
Stark.
out as an arms dealer, and he too became an arms dealer, only on the other side of the law. But he basically did what Stark did. He's like a self-made man. That's also interesting.
Right, he even
How-
says that, yeah.
Yeah, how self-made men are often villains in movies, whereas the one who are born into wealth are heroes.
I guess there's kind of the thing. I was born into wealth. I sort of had this responsibility to use this, even that this wealth that I didn't earn to benefits, the greater good. I
Yeah.
guess that's always the theme.
Whereas Toombs, he also did what he did out of responsibility. He had employees that he needed to feed, that he had hired. He couldn't fire them. He needed to put food on his family's table. So it was responsibility that made him do what he did as well.
And I'm gonna say I really liked too that he was not like a generic big bad evil guy boss. Like
Right.
other than accidentally vaporizing one of his employees, he seems like a guy I would like to work with.
He seems very
Yeah.
charismatic. And that's what I
He's-
like about his character. I think he's the second best Marvel villain. Period.
Oh, yeah.
He's a family man, really. If you think about it, he's just a family man. He has his work family. He has his,
just got
his own
greedy.
family. Yeah, he just
Yeah,
got
just be
greedy,
sure to not get on his shit list, because when you see how easily he's going to vaporize the guy, okay, he didn't mean to vaporize
how,
him.
How he was able to know who Peter Parker was very casually. He's like, oh, I know who you are. I'm coming.
Yeah, I really enjoy that, because usually you have like in comics and comic book movies, you have like the Clark Kent Superman trope where it looks almost the same, no one recognizes. And here then comes the Vulture, and he basically just deduces that this guy is Spider-Man. And you can see that he's like thinking, and he has a hypothesis. This guy must be Spider-Man. So I'm going to go on with some control questions to see what he answers. And the answers basically just confirms it, and he
there's a very
knows.
subliminal nuance thing they do in the movie where he's at a stoplight and the light illuminates him as red because it stopped, basically being red, like he's thinking. And
Stop, yeah.
There's also a double
Yes.
theme of the red symbolizes evil, and then it goes green,
Oh, yeah.
symbolizes that, he knows he's Spider-Man.
The
It's
movie was very
subtle.
symbolic in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
it was
And it did it without
For some
beating
reason, I
you
got
over the
old
head.
school Twin Peaks vibe from that particular image. I have yet.
And
to
I'm
watch
glad
the-
glad you brought that up. But yeah, sorry, Grant, go ahead. Sorry.
No, that was it. I was just saying it reminded me of the very early episodes of the original Twin Peaks.
I obviously
I
have a
still
really
have yet
shitty
to catch up
delay.
with the acid trip that is the new series, but looking forward to that on another note.
Yeah, one of the things I keep saying, apart from being fairly nice to look at, Marissa Tomei really does work well as Aunt May, as May Parker.
I feel like
Fantastic.
the thing is Aunt May. The thing about Aunt May is that I really feel like this is the right approach with her. Like, I mean, I know people are like saying, "Oh, she looks like a stripper because she played one in like what, The Wrestler," but like I think the thing is the idea of Aunt May as she was presented in the comics. I feel like that was just kind of like that she was like 30 years older than Peter's parents would have been. Like, I
Right.
thought that was just kind of a disconnect.
Yeah.
And, like, I mean, I get the ideas that they were sort of trying to present her as, like, this greatest generation type archetype. I don't think that makes sense in the modern day. And I did think that it made sense to cast someone like Sally Field in the Amazing series, and that she's younger, but she's still old.
Right.
And then with Marisa Tomei, I think this is just the logical conclusion of she's old enough to actually be Peter's mom, but she's not, you know?
Right. And I think I brought that up in a podcast recently about how, in the 60s and up through the 80s, it was a little more believable to have an aunt that was that old, considering most families had a lot more kids, especially here in the Midwest. It wasn't no big deal, but nowadays it seems a little out of place. So I think, and not only that, it's been done to death, and it's just like every ma and pa, they're all the same if you get to that point where, so I think it was a very good idea to young her character down quite a bit. And make her more relatable to Peter in a lot of ways, too.
Yeah, and I think, too, a good thing about it is that it means we don't have to sit through the Aunt May is sick again plot over and over and over again, which is something that was incredibly common even in the really old Spider-Man.
Well, not only that, yeah, you're getting an Aunt May to where he actually trusts her, and not only that, he trusts his other Aunt May, the other Aunt Mays too in the older versions, but it's so much more of like, I just need to protect her and that kind of stuff. Like you said, the whole thing with, oh no, Aunt May's sick again. You're not going to get that kind of stuff. She's actually going to be involved now.
Like the Timmy that falls down the well and laughs.
Right, and that's just it. I'm glad that they changed that, and it really add something fresh to these superhero movies that you don't normally get, because usually the parents in most of these movies are either dead or they're like way old, like Ma and Pa Kent.
A total like trope of like, especially with like Pixar films, they have like the Disney films, like the
dead parents are the best.
Like it's like what, like what's the genocide against parents? I mean, Jesus, what are you trying to say? Anyway,
doesn't everyone want their parents dead?
Exactly.
Okay, so beyond, since you're talking, what did you like about the film?
Well, like you said, Tom, there's a lot to like in this film. I love the subtleties. There's so much subtleties, so many by the belt, Easter eggs, to the chest, but also really great. That adds for great replay value. I really enjoyed the cinematography. I thought it looked much more brighter and much better than previous Marvel films. I still think Guardians of the Galaxy, I would like to see more of that vibrancy with the domestic heroes, but nevertheless, you still get a great, the definitive, true to the character, straight out of the comic Spider-Man. I think this is the most out of the comic Spider-Man would ever had on screen.
For sure.
And I think this movie is going to be, like you said, Tom, the movie of the summer, and I think it's going to make the most money. I can see this movie making $1 billion easy.
Oh yeah, I think I said 1.5 will be its final, and it'll earn it.
I think that's a bit of an overestimate, but I do think it's
I think so too.
Indicates.
I think
I'm just saying that just because the general trend for movies that make $1 billion is that they have recently usually have made around $1 billion as opposed to much more than $1 billion.
Right.
There's you have like stuff like The Force Awakens, which that blew 2.1 billion pretty quickly. But as opposed to like some of these other big hits, like Rogue One basically crawled to $1 billion, more or less. That's a bit to be expected, considering that it's a spin-off and it doesn't have any of the new characters or old characters aside from Darth Vader and Leia and Tarkin and a couple of others in brief cameos. But like I think we have to keep in mind that while $1 billion is a really cool number to look at, it's not realistic for most movies to get. I mean, only like 30 movies in history have done that.
Normally, I would totally agree with you, Grant, on this, but one thing is, and this is Spider-Man. He outsells every single comic book character almost put together. Not only that, they're already saying that this movie is doing better than the estimates by like $20-30 million already. And that's just an estimate out front.
Oh, can you link me to that? Because I would really like to see that.
I've seen it. I think Amethyst sent me the link. If she has it, that would be great if you could send that to Grant. Otherwise, I could send it to you after the show for sure. But yeah, I think that because the new estimates now are like at 130 to 140 or 150, I think.
So that would basically be Guardians 2 numbers, which I think would be great.
You always one thing I noticed. I don't know if I'm the only one who noticed it. Do you notice that shot with Iron Man and Spider-Man swinging through Queens?
Oh yeah, that was John Watts actually talked about it. He said that was deliberately a trailer shot. Like they were originally thinking of trying to do something with Stark and Spider-Man on the boat, but they didn't have a really good shot of that and it wasn't rendered yet. So instead they just decided, fuck it, let's just make a trailer specific shot. So that plus the shot of Vulture landing in a hotel, which was actually repurposed to be him landing inside his evil lair, or whatever it was, his nest, as I'd like to call it. And a couple shots of kissing. Basically, the footage that was shown in the ads, I will give them this credit, is that what you saw was basically what you got. Like, it wasn't like a case of, like,
99%,
Rogue One, where they reshot, like, a bunch of stuff, and then there's a bunch of stuff that's on the cutting room floor as a result of changes and that sort of thing.
It's not as bad.
So I will give the marketing team credit for basically presenting the movie as it needs to be presented, you know?
Right. Well, speaking of shots that aren't finished, I thought I was kind of going in expecting the movie to be a lot more wonky than it was, because a lot of people were saying up front that some of the special effects were kind of not as good as they were hoping, and I thought they were great. Maybe it was because I saw it in 3D.
I thought they were great.
Really?
Like,
Who said
the only shot I can really think of that I thought looked like too CGI was the shot where it's like he gets hit with the anti-gravity cannon and he's floating in the air, and he's like flailing about. When that first happens, like I thought that looked kind of like rubbery, a little rushed. But like I felt like everything, considering what they did, I felt like everything looked as good as it needed to look. Like I felt like. Right. They managed this budget responsibly. I don't know if Tom Rothman deserves a shred of credit for that.
No, don't give Tom Rothman credit for anything.
More like a negative pickup than anything. I think that's what this is more like. Is basically Marvel packaged it and sent it over to Sony, and all they did was send it out.
That's what I think too.
Yeah, I like to think that.
I think it was
too,
on Collider. One of the girls I think said that Spider-Man was really animated looking in a lot of shots, and honestly, the only couple shots that I could think of that looked like crap were the two times that Michael Keaton come down through the ceiling. I think you kind of mentioned something about that, and those were the only two times that I really thought the movie kind of looked a little cartoony. But anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you lost my train of thought. Shit.
I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. It'll come back to me, or if it doesn't, then it probably didn't matter all that much. But
well, let me just jump in. The one thing I really do love was the costume design for the Vulture.
Oh yeah.
Usually they really did avoid making him too, for want of a better expression, cartoony. And the flight jacket actually was a nice touch. The old school World War II bomber jacket he wore.
Right.
That was awesome.
Because that was from the comic.
And I just thought, like, since we were all talking about how
but it's practical too, because you're going up to such altitudes and you're going to want to be warm. So
right. It makes perfect sense. And I just realized this when we were just talking about how Toomes basically became his antithesis, in that he's basically an illegal Tony Stark, is that I love the fact that they did the HUD cam in a couple of shots, like where it's like you saw it from his point of view.
I noticed that, yeah.
So, like, I do like the whole they're not really all that different sort of thing. Also, something I like is that the villain didn't die at the end of this. Like, I just thought
that was one striking thing that really got me. Like, I was like, yes, they didn't kill him, because I thought they were going to repeat the original Sam Raimi Spider-Man.
Me too.
Having the Green Goblin basically accidentally kill himself. They're like, no, Spider-Man did the right thing. He saved the villain, but brought him to justice.
Right.
Yeah.
Don't tell Liz. Like, they didn't do that graciously.
Yeah. The other thing I like too is that, like, I don't know if we touched on this yet, but the city wasn't going to be destroyed at the end of this.
Yeah, that's what I said when, like, I'm glad that there wasn't like a giant void of CGI fuck like the end of Doctor Strange or Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
Or the X-Men movies. Yeah, thank God there was no CGI shitstorm.
With people gaping up at the sky, waiting for the ground to fall beneath their feet, And actually, that's been a criticism I've seen quite a bit lately of a lot of superhero films. It's that, the climactic battle always takes place and the city gets destroyed. I'm like, actually, no, it doesn't this time, which is good. I mean, we have a plane crashing on at Coney Island, and Spidey, like I said, Spidey rescues the bad guy, which is actually
The ferry.
Yeah, and the ferry does get ripped in half, but Staten Island ferry, but
And at least a couple people probably died in that instance, but yeah.
Well,
actually,
technically,
they didn't say.
They actually make
Tony
a point
said-
of no one
yeah.
dying.
Yeah, Tony said that, but I think that one dude who got hit by the car, the bad guy, I'm not
No,
so sure about him.
that's actually Scorpion.
That's Gargan.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh, because who
Yeah,
that was? Okay.
it's which is interesting. That I really like to say, even though we only really got to see Michael Mando. If any of you watch Orphan Black, fantastic series.
I love Orphan. I love Orphan Black. Haven't kept up with it though this season.
Yeah, he
Really
does
good.
a villain on that. He's good. More people might be familiar with his role as I think it's Vaz from Far Cry 3. Like he's the central antagonist for most of the game, where he's the one who's telling you, "Have I ever told you the definition of insanity?" He plays like a really good bad guy. Like I really can't wait to see what he's up to. The only worry that I have is that since Silver and Black supposedly has Scorpion in it as part of it, that they're trying to put him in their transplant verse instead of it being like a setup for Spider-Man 2.
Right.
Which I think they will end up using him as a Spider-Man 2 baddie, just because I think I think they'll want to keep going with villains they haven't gone with before. And if they go with Scorpion, that means they can introduce a new JJ. So I would love to see that.
That would be pretty cool. Like,
Was there anybody-
on the cutting room floor?
Say, Beyond, did you get to give your impressions of what you liked, or did everybody get to give their impressions of what they liked?
Pretty much. For me right now, it's like about 2 a.m. So
Right.
I don't know,
Yeah.
like when you guys wanted to end this, because my eyes were like starting to die. They're starting to. They're like my eyes.
Well, we had a
are
few
watery.
things yet to cover, but if you need to pass out, that's understandable, Beyond. But okay, so I mean, we did kind of touch on Peter and Aunt May's relationship. Like I said, I think that it was a lot better that they related to each other. How did you guys feel about the whole new Avengers headquarters and Stark Tower being sold? What'd you guys think of that?
I thought Stark Tower being sold it made a lot of sense, considering that, well, yeah, they already were making room for a new facility. Plus, I mean, with all the fallout with what happened in Civil War, I'm sure Tony would probably want to be rid of that. You know, he would just probably want to just move on.
Move out of the city, really, to get to
Right.
sort of if the Avengers are going to be attacked like that, be away from the city. So
Yeah. I'm really glad we moved into this, because that was something that I want to talk about before we round out, namely future implications. And
Right.
there are like two things that especially come to mind, and this is the first of them, because there's like two questions or one question really, with Stark Tower being sold. You can see the reason why, because before or after it was the Stark Tower, it was the Avengers Tower. And you don't want that in the middle of the city, because it's a magnet for trouble. And the middle of the city is a bad place to have it. So upstate New York is better. But here's the question. Who bought it?
I personally want it to be the Baxter building,
Wait.
but I know that's not going to happen
What-
because
what if
Fox
it's
is
Oscorp?
stupid.
What if it's Oscorp? What if it's
Exactly.
Right.
Because remember, they were going to have the Oscorp building in Avengers 1, right? That's what they wanted to do, right?
Yeah.
There you go.
Because this is the tallest building in New York. And they're not just going to say randomly sell it and never mention it again. That is building towards something. That building is going to stay. It started out the Stark Tower, then it became the Avengers Tower, and now what? The
and then
Baxter
I
building?
think, too-
Oscorp?
Yeah, I think too if they end up making a deal, if they keep renewing the deal with Sony, which I think will be more inclined to do, especially once Silver and Black tanks, because it's probably
I think
going
it's
to.
good.
Well, Venom has to tank first, because that's the one that's going to be released earlier.
Well,
but we can get back to that later.
The thing is that's weird is that apparently I just checked. Apparently both movies are scheduled for an October release date, which is suicidal, especially considering that there's an X-Men movie coming.
Yeah,
right
that's
the
not
first week
gonna
of
happen.
November.
Yeah, we brought that up a few times too. There's one of them's going to get moved. But yeah, it's very possible. And the one thing that just come out here recently is I heard that they're pretty much going to be finishing out the entire story with Spider-Man's 5-story arc or 5-movie arc here up to the 22nd film, which would be Avengers 4. And that main story arc is supposed to finally come to an end or whatever it was. Yeah, go ahead. I might be wrong.
Actually, the 5th movie is Spider-Man 2.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
But so moving on from that, because I wasn't quite done with the implications here.
Oh, go ahead.
Because there are like two things, and one then is the Stark Tower. This is being sold, so this, I guarantee you, this is setting something up. I don't know what is being set up, but something is being set up.
The Sinister Tower.
Oh God, I hope not. But anyway, so yeah, but Oscorp, that is a good guess. However, did you notice this? That they took a lot of storylines and like things that happen and character relations that typically belong to Norman Osborn, and they applied them to Adrian Toomes. I'm going to let you know what I think about. Because, for instance, let's go back to Peter Parker. He has a classmate whose father is a supervillain. Traditionally, that classmate has been Harry Osborn, and the father was Norman Osborn, the Green Goblin. Here, in this movie, he also has a classmate whose father is a supervillain, but it's Liz, and the father is Adrian Toomes, the Vulture. What does that mean for the future? Is he suddenly going to have a new classmate, Harry Osborn, whose father is Norman Osborn? Or are they not going to go down that direction at all? Is Norman Osborn done in the MCU? Is Harry Osborn done?
I'm glad. Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't think so. I feel like that's something that they kind of would want to figure out once they make sure. Okay, is Spider-Man in this for the long haul, or maybe it's something that's set up in 2 potentially? Like I mean, I'd say set up as opposed to like trying to fit the entire story arc in one movie, which is what happened with TASM 2, and that did not handle that well. Aside from the death of Gwen Stacy, which I thought was still a well-directed sequence.
Isolated from the other parts of the movie, yes. That
was a great scene. But go ahead. Were you going to say something beyond?
Yeah, I was going to say something else, too. Excuse me, yeah. I think, there's one criticism that people say, well, the Marvel movies are always an advertisement for the sequel. Yes, I think a few examples that is really bad was Age of Ultron. I think that was the worst offender, and Iron Man 2, of course. But I think Spider-Man Homecoming, there's enough to enjoy on its own, but at least stuff for the sequel, more to be desired without taking away from the movie itself, which is what, of course, The Amazing Spider-Man, like you guys said, failed so exponentially at doing.
Right.
And I'm glad
Also, I'd just like to throw this out there. I love, like, all the connections to the MCU. Like, I was a little worried with, the advertisements I thought were really cool, like how they, like you could see like Howard Stark in the mural, or you could see Tony Stark among the lists of scientists. I mean, not Tony Stark, I mean Bruce Banner. And I thought, like, at first, like, I was like a little worried, like, are they doing this too overboard? Like, I mean, like, I got worried when they turned out that they gave away one of the Cap cameos, but I was relieved when it turned out there was more than one Cap cameo. So
yeah, thankfully.
Yeah, I very much liked that they made it feel like the MCU was sort of lived in, as opposed to like saying, "Wow, this is that same building that Iron Man walked into," or something like that. Like I felt like it was natural the way they had it progress as part of the story's progression, as opposed to, "Hey, look, we made a reference."
Right. If I were to make a comparison, it's kind of like when you play a Grand Theft Auto game. It's this thing that exists, and it keeps existing after you turn it off. Sort of like you said, you feel like the Marvel Universe is now like a real tangible place, the MCU rather. So if you guys can understand about it, like I said, it doesn't exist as a construct of movies. You feel as if, there's real people in this universe, and we're just looking in,
just like the comics were.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
And I
How,
felt like this was like one of the
basically, yeah, a soap
closest to a
opera.
comic book movie. Like I felt like I was seeing something again in the vein of Superman the movie and Batman '89, where they captured the perfect tone of a comic book and did it just eloquently. And the movie is so tight. And I'm glad Andre brought up the part earlier about how they flipped a little bit with the whole Norman Harry Osborn story and put it into the Vulture in a way. And I think he's right on that, because I noticed that too, right at that last scene. Like I think it was Beyond who brought it up before, whoever did, about how it was nice to see a villain not get killed in the MCU for once,
Yeah,
or
both
in
Fred
one of
and
these
I kinda
movies.
at the same time, 'cause
Yeah,
you said it
I think
first,
so.
but
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
already
okay.
had the thought in my head too as well
But
when
right,
first
I mean,
saw it.
and they played that perfectly. And not only that, we had the first time ever where in one of these, not just, and it's like almost any of these movies where they didn't set up, or at least it didn't feel like they were setting up a bunch of other movies. But if they did it in such a nuanced, under the radar way, like,
Right, like the whole thing
the
with
tower
the
and everything
Avengers
else.
Tower, yeah.
And to come back around to what we were talking about before, I honestly think I'm going to go against what Grant said, and I think that the Osborns are done in this universe. I don't think they're going to use them again because they've used them twice already. I think they're going to stay away from them. I think that Andre's right, and they're going to kind of make Michael Keaton the new Harry Osborn in a way, of a sense of his character is going to take the place of Norman Osborn, sorry. His character is going to take the place of his importance in this universe, I think, or at least in this story arc. I don't think we're going to see a lot of
he's
the
only on one contract, though. That's the thing, is he had a one movie contract.
It's very possible. You could be right, but I'm just saying. Other than that, they could introduce somebody else, but I just don't really. I'm not really sure they're going to go back to that well again, because the only other thing that I kind of seen that was an inclination that we might see any of the major Spider-Man characters was when they were rummaging through some of the alien stuff in the cargo hold. There was something that looked like one of Dr. Octopus's arms. And that's the closest thing I kind of saw to that kind of made me think, okay, they might do him later on, but I doubt it.
You know who I hope is going to buy the Stark Tower? I don't think this is going to happen, but it would make perfect sense with the comics and everything, because you had the same situation in the comics when the Green Goblin was played out. Norman Osborn was dead. Harry Osborn had been the Green Goblin. Harry Osborn's psychiatrist had been the Green Goblin. And the audience still wanted more Goblin, but they were kind of done with him. So then Roger Stern did something brilliant. He created the Hobgoblin, and he created this really, really intricate story structure with loads of red herrings, where you basically see a mysterious shadow figure creating the Hobgoblin, built up over many, many issues. And then it was revealed years later that it was really Roderick Kingsley, another rich guy in the Marvel Universe who so far has not been in the movies. But
Right.
he's a great character, and I'd love for Roderick Kingsley to be the new owner of Stark Tower, and for the Hobgoblin to take that place in the MCU that the
I think
Green
maybe they
Goblin
I think
Can't
maybe
have-
they could take a place from a page from the animated Spider-Man series, the one from the 90s, and then have the Hobgoblin be the first Goblin character, and then the Green Goblin come later.
Exactly, they can do that. Have Roderick Kingsley be the originator, but it has to be Roderick Kingsley because he's the great character, not Ned Leeds, who they
Right.
ruined anyway. And that's also something from
I
the
mean,
comics.
well, Ned
because,
Leeds is basically Gonka, so
exactly.
I don't know.
why they even called him Ned Leeds. They should have just called him Gunky because that's who he is.
Yeah, it was pretty. I think they were trying to maybe like keep it an Easter egg or whatever, but it just came across very like just have him.
Oh, speaking of Easter eggs, I liked Donald Glover's small role in the movie. I thought he was. I
Did
thought
you
for
notice this? Hold on, they reference Miles Morales in him with the character,
Right.
His nephew.
Yeah, he mentions his nephew, that he's worried about his safety and everything. Which I think, if that makes sense, then
That
if
goes
they end
along
up-
with what they said. That
what I think is going to happen. I think this is the long-term plan. Is that they're going to have it set up like where it's like years down the road, Peter Parker basically becomes full-time Avenger or something, and then there's a movie that comes along where he ends up having to train this new Spider-Man, and then I'm thinking Ned will end up being Gonk as, like, I think, like, he'd be in place of Happy Hogan in this movie. He would basically be that character, even though he would still be called Ned Leeds if he's still around in the MCU at this time. But, like, that's what I personally think they're going to do, more of a Spider-Man route as opposed to something like the death of Spider-Man, just because, I mean, adapting that would just be too ballsy, and I don't think Marvel would really want to do that, considering that in the public consciousness, this is just how it is, and it's probably how it's always going to be, is that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. And Miles Morales, while he is a successor Spider-Man, it's not necessarily... Like, I mean, it's like you say, like, if you had Dick Grayson playing Batman, like, you would know that's... I mean, he's Batman, but he's not Batman, you know? Like, that's just kind of how the thing just kind of rolls. Like
I keep saying, he's like the guy who replaced Jon Stewart on The Daily Show.
Right.
That's Miles Morales. You know, everyone says, "Oh, he's so great," but you know he'll never be as good as the original.
Well, Kevin Feige did say that Miles Morales does exist in this universe. I think it was just last week here.
When I saw Donald Glover, I was just like, Troy!
I think they...
For you community fans out there.
I think they used all the side characters very well here. I think the story was very tight. They didn't hit you over the head with any exposition. If there was any lead-ins to other movies, they did it with such nuance that we didn't really notice because it worked so well within the structure of the story. But I guess then to move on and get into final thoughts, though, and to the future and whatnot, why was Amy Pascal even part of this? What do you guys think about that?
The reason it's technically like she has this is her legacy, for better or for worse, is that she got, like, even though she tremendously took the blame for fucking up with the Sony email crisis, she did come up with the plan. Like, she was the one to facilitate the plan from Sony's end to get to make Spider-Man movies really well received again and really get back to the essence of what people love about the character and away from Avi Arad.
Right.
Is the short answer of it.
I have a longer answer, but we can get back to that.
And then her severance package is basically she has her own production company now, and it's connected to Sony for, like, I think it expires in 2019, which is why I think her comments about, well, after the sequel, this deal might never happen again, is interesting, because if that were the case, she would not be part of that deal, because her production company would be severed from Sony at that point.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, the longer answer. I don't know with 100% certainty that this is accurate, but it does fit with something new that we learned relatively recently. And that is, I think it was either Kevin Feige or Amy Pascal. It was one of the two who said it, and they were together at the time, who basically said how the deal came about. And it was Kevin Feige's suggestion that let's do this, that we can make the movie for you. But the interesting thing is where this deal was signed and who was present. It wasn't signed in a meeting room. It wasn't signed at Sony offices, and it wasn't signed at Marvel offices either.
It was
signed at the private residence of Ike Perlmutter. And the people who were present were Ike Perlmutter and Kevin Feige from Marvel, and Michael Linton and Amy Pascal from Sony. Those are the only ones present and the only ones involved. Now, what I think happened is that this was after the email hacked and leaks and everything. They both knew that they were on their way out. Amy Pascal certainly knew that there is no way I am getting out of this alive. I'm done at Sony, which indeed she was. And Michael Linton must have suspected the same thing. So I think that they personally might have been very inclined to sign a deal. Certainly Amy Pascal saying that, yeah, we'll give you this deal, but you have to demand that I, Amy Pascal, and my production company be part of this package, and you insist that I be there as a producer. And I think that is what happened. I think that is why she's there. She wasn't appointed by Sony because they needed someone that they could trust to oversee. I think it was a matter of this was a rope to carry on as a producer, to have a career, to be made, even after being fired from Sony, which was coming. I think that was a really important reason, and which also explains why she's there so prominently. That was the condition for signing the deal at all.
To give, I think, sorry to interrupt you, Andre, but I think what they're doing is they wanted to change the perception of Amy Pascal to give the appearance that she has more involvement than she actually does. I think that's what you're getting at, right? This kind of like
right, and I think that's part of the reason. I think that's part of the reason why she's made like some really weird statements that like we all saw Kevin Feige like just react awkwardly with the whole Venom is adjacent to this movie, so we just wanted to let you know that. Like, I don't know, like I'm not sure if I'm doing a good or terrible impersonation of her, but it seems like she's kind of in and out of the loop is the thing. I mean, for her credit, she's producing a Spielberg pick for the end of the year, which will be the beginning of next year for most audiences, about the Pentagon Papers. So, like, if that,
bait, yeah.
I mean, so yeah, if Homecoming is going to do well, that looks good on her resume. Papers will probably do well and will look good on her resume. And like, I mean, even though Ghostbusters was a turd, that did. I mean, critics liked it for what it's worth. And, like, there's a cult following that I think has basically forgotten about it now that Wonder Woman is a thing. So, I don't know.
Oh, that cult following, they were over that movie really, really fast. But yeah, no, I think that's matter because it's very easy to dismiss Amy Pascal when you look at her emails and she writes like a child and she speaks in a way which fits what she writes, to put it that way. And Grant, you did a very good impersonation of Amy Pascal there. But it's not nice to make fun of the mentally challenged. But here's the thing. I don't think that she's much of a producer, and she's the wrong profession. But she's not stupid because she has gotten to a certain place. And just look at how she was able to maneuver herself into being part of the Spider-Man movies. Even if all she has to do is not even show up, just let Kevin Feige handle all the stuff, and then try not to fuck up too bad in interviews, and failing at it, I might add. She still managed to maneuver herself into that position, so she shouldn't be discounted completely.
Right,
and
I think she did leave. She did. Oh, sorry. She did leave a reply that I did like, with regards to, like, someone was asking, well, why did you change the races of so many characters? Like, why are you going all multicultural? And her response was, I guess I was inspired by reality. Like, I felt like that was a great way of just kind of shutting that down. Like, I mean, I don't really think she's necessarily, like, all that good. I mean, she's obviously not good as an executive, but, like, I did think that was a good way of answering that with, I don't know, a bit of repartee.
Right. Andre,
that's thinking on your feet right there, actually. The one. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Rob.
No, well, yeah, I was about to say, she gets to negotiate an exit package for herself, really.
That's what I was going to say, too, yeah.
And to her credit, though, when she's not in charge of making creative decisions, she's actually pretty good at what she does. She was head of distribution for Sony for movies like Casino Royale, and that was a big hit in the 007 franchise. But but making creative decisions is obviously not her strong suit.
Right. Before she took too many medications, she actually did put together a lot of very big movies. Speculatively. But anyway, I think
what she did was hire the right people who she trusted.
And she knew a good idea when she heard it.
Exactly.
Like
Except
this situation.
No Big Deal, Spider-Man, Tough Mudder. She loved that idea, but that was...
we won't go.
Let us never speak of that again.
I think that's more Avi Arad than it was her, to be honest.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, the infamous...
Remember what I said about trying too hard? That's trying too hard.
Yeah.
Right. So anyway, guys, I don't know what time it is over there for you, but right now it's currently 2:25, and I think I'm about to pass out. So.
Same here. Yeah,
I know there's a couple things that Andre did want to touch on yet too, but
one more thing, just one more thing. Everything else we can deal with for later, but there's one thing that I'd like to touch on. Just give me a second to think. No, I got it. Because Sony, they want spin-off movies. And that is perfectly fine. I understand that they want it, and I agree that they should have it. I only wish that they had worked more with Marvel on making those spin-off movies, so you could get someone that would fit. Now, having seen Spider-Man Homecoming, I think that creating a joint Venom and Carnage movie, which is going to be a comedy, which is why they chose the guy who directed Zombieland to direct this one, thinking they're going to get something like that, which they won't, because it was the writers of Deadpool that made Zombieland into Zombieland. The director, he basically just pointed the camera and filmed. Look at his later output, that's not him. So Venom and Carnage, I think, probably is going to ruin both characters, even if Tom Hardy is a great actor and all. So I think that's a really poor decision on Sony's part, but I'd still like to see them do a spin-off movie. And the one that I think they should be doing, and I would like to hear your guys' thoughts on this. Now, having seen Spider-Man Homecoming, and they set up Adrian Toomes, and how he's selling these superpowered weapons to various criminals who try to break out for themselves, like the Shocker and everything like that. There is this comic from a few years back, The Superior Foes of Spider-Man. I don't know if you've read it.
I have not, but I know what you're talking about. It was like a spin-off version of the Sinister Foes of Spider-Man or something like that. But like the idea is, yeah, like it was basically like the B team of Spider-Man villains.
Exactly. It was the B team of Spider-Man villains who are trying to work together, who are trying to get this one big score, and you get to learn about their backstories and everything, and these guys are just failures. And you really should be reading this series. It's like just a limited series, like 20 or so issues, and it's fantastic. It's hysterically funny, and it would be a great spin-off for Sony to make.
Guys like the Beetle, those guys.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
It's the Beetle, the Shocker.
It's the Beetle, the Shocker.
I don't think there's like. I don't think
Speed
Big
Demon.
Wheel. I don't think Big Wheel is part of it, but like I would presume that this kind of a movie would have like a joke character like Big Wheel.
And Boomerang. Boomerang is the team leader. Just to like put things into context, that is how B-list we are. That Boomerang is the team leader, and he's like bemoaning that he's like this guy with a boomerang on his head, and how they're all terrified of meeting the Punisher because all the other superheroes, they're just going to pummel them up a little bit. But you meet the Punisher, it's every man for themselves, because then they're done. And so you have like this really, really cool alternate look at the Marvel universe and the heroes and villains and everything. And that would have been a great movie for Sony to make, in my opinion. So I'm just curious to what's your opinion on all of that. What spin-off movie would you have liked to see instead of Venom, presumably?
I personally, I would really like to see something along the lines of a Norman Osborn movie akin to, say, American Psycho or something like that. Like some kind of, there's a corporate element to it, but it's also like, it's also a movie about, it's also kind of a horror movie, you know, like you have to, like there's this character that like very charismatic and there's something off about him, but nobody really disrespects him for his position and everything, and then it turns out he leads this wicked double life or whatever. Like I feel like that could be interesting to see play out, and that's actually the approach that I think they should go with for a proper Venom movie. Is it should also be something that is deeply psychological. Like I mean, one idea that I had for a pitch for a Venom movie would be to have it kind of be like a horror movie from this perspective of a superhero. Like instead of the final girl, it's the final superhero kind of thing. And it's like, because Venom was first introduced as being as just stalking Mary Jane and like just standing inside her and Peter Parker's house and just like standing and breathing and just scaring the hell out of her when she turned the light on and everything. Like, and I think there's an element of horror to that character that I think there's something that they did not utilize in Spider-Man 3, and they're not going to utilize it in this Venom spinoff because that's not
exactly how I said they should have done it too, Grant, and they're not going to do it, and unfortunately that's going to really screw them.
I mean, the issue I really take with Avi Arad is his approach is he's approached it like as a toy maker, as opposed to, say, someone who is passionate about the material. And I can get that if you're a business person and you have numbers to move. But the thing about him is he tries to be like, oh, but it's what the fans wanted. Like, the fans wanted Venom. Like, no, we wanted Venom, yeah, sure, but we didn't want him shoved into the third act of a movie that was about two other villains, you know? Like, I stand by my statement that Spider-Man 3 would have been a much better film if it had just focused on the Green Goblin and Sandman, and then laid the seeds for Venom in Spider-Man 4.
Well, the only other problem with that, though, is the main issue I have, besides Venom with Spider-Man 3, is how they ham-fisted Sandman into the Uncle Ben story. Yeah, that really bothered me. So, I mean, even without Venom, that was still a problem. But, yeah, just to reiterate.
But I do think, for what it's worth, Thomas Hayden Church's performance as Sandman was probably the highlight of that film.
Oh, yeah.
He would have been a far better Eddie Brock.
Right. Now that I think of it, yeah, he would have been a better Eddie Brock.
I remember thinking when he was first announced, I was like thinking, this must be some kind of ruse, because that guy is Eddie Brock in a way that Tom Hardy can never be. So why did they say that he's cast as Sandman? It must be some kind of mistake, because that's Eddie Brock. That's what he should have been.
Made more sense than Topher Grace.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what he was thinking, other than there were rumors that that Sam Raimi did that just to piss off the producers. I don't know.
Well, that's one way to do it. Yeah. There's really no spin-offs I'd like to see from this. I mean, yeah, you're gonna always come in with people are gonna say, "Oh, Black Cat," but Black Cat needs Spider-Man to play off of, and if you're gonna make a Black Cat movie, you're just gonna be waiting for Spider-Man to show up in some capacity.
Right. And you almost need Spider-Man to do Venom in a lot of ways too, to give him his powers without some hackneyed excuse. A lot of the Venom powers that are similar to Spider-Man's. But I mean, just to kind of go back to a little bit of what Andre said before, and to kind of give my idea of how I see any spin-offs on this is, I think Amy had rope all right, and Kevin gave her just enough rope to hang herself with, because she, I think, realized now that she's fucking with a G, because he come out and said these Venom movies have nothing to do with our Marvel universe. And in that instance
he also did it. I also like that he did it in a way that wasn't discouraging of the Venom movie. Yeah. Like, it was very professional. Like, he is.
Oh yeah.
He's
a consummate.
I'm going to say I don't think there will ever be another producer like Kevin Feige down the road.
And that's what I'm saying. He is right now, pound for pound. There is no better producer in Hollywood right now. He knows exactly what he's doing.
But hopefully there will be more like him, because that's one of the things that we kind of like hope to achieve with Midnight's Edge. It's too late for the current generation of producers, but the next one, you young aspiring filmmakers out there, look at the people behind the scenes, look at what they do, look at what works, and look at what doesn't. Look at who you should emulate and who you should try to be like. And hopefully, with the next generation, we're going to get some more Kevin Feige's.
I think that was the ideal send-off for this entire discussion. I know a lot of DC fanboys are going to be like, "Oh, you're just a fanboy of Marvel," and but
you know what? It was refreshing to actually watch a movie that didn't like shove nonsense plot in my face and was full of plot holes and darkness and slow-mo, and yeah, it was kind of nice.
That actually had more colors than brown, black, and more brown.
Like a superhero movie.
I know, it's a very rare, seldom thing you see, but anyway, so I think basically for those who are watching, I don't know if there's anybody else, we're basically going to be ending the stream now, so it was great for
All
everybody.
right. Well, thanks for joining us, Andre.
You're welcome. Pleasure to be here.
Grant,
Thanks
thank you for
the
joining us.
10 to like 12 people that watched our show.
Right. I'm sure we'll get more as
Live.
it gets up in the morning, but yeah. Because it'll be up live after the live link. It will go up once it's processed, so people can watch it later. I mean, I think people watch it in the morning, so a lot of people that are going to be listening to this won't be listening live. But thank you for joining us, Grant, of course, and Rob.
And Tom, thank you as always.
Well, of course, I'm here. I'm always here. And beyond, of course, for helping us produce the show today, basically, because he had to take care of all the technical stuff. So thank you for also waiting up with us tonight. And thank you guys for joining us, the few that did. And if you're one of the later people that did, thanks for joining us. Don't forget to hit that subscribe and like button and all that good stuff and the little bell to make sure you know when new videos come up. Thanks again, guys.
Okay. All right. See you guys later. Thanks a lot.
Good
See ya.
night.
All right.
Good night, everybody.
Peace out.